Hey you guys, so I know it's been a while, and when I say a while, it's been over a year in actuality since the last time I made a video, and this time this is an introduction video as to where I have been in the last year since the last video. Um, so in the last year or so, I honestly can't even lie to you guys. My life got so hectic, and since the last video game video that I posted, I want to say at the time I was living with my grandmother, or this was like when I first moved in with her, when I had stopped making the videos. Because quite frankly, I just did not have the time. So let me start off by saying, first of all, before I moved in with my grandmother, by the way, I'm looking out the window so that I can think. But before I moved in with my grandmother, I had lived with my sister um, for about 6 months. I had previously just moved from Las Vegas to California, where I'm from. And I don't know if y'all remember, but I said before I have a daughter. And so me and my daughter were living with my sister. And I want to say back in like March of 2023. Yeah, like March of 2023. I ended up having to move out of my sister's place because she was going to leave her place. And so I needed to find a place very quickly. And like I said, living with my younger sisters, for the most part, was fun. But for, I want to say maybe a month or so, my daughter and I did not have our own room. So we were just sleeping in the living room, which of course is very hectic because it's the living room. So it's basically where you live, and our bed was just in a corner in the living room because we didn't really want to disturb anybody. But then we ended up moving into one of the other rooms because one of my sisters moved out. And we stayed there from about, I want to say, late 2022 up until March of 2023. So, yeah. And then I moved in with my grandmother like right afterwards. And like, when we first moved in with my sister, we had all type of stuff like bed, a bunch of clothes. My baby didn't have really any toys. She had like little toys here and there, and then she had like her potty because she was still in the potty training stage at the time. So it's been a while. And so um I had started doing the YouTube videos, I want to say like mid 2023. I was still living I was living with my grandma. So when I moved in with my grandma had a spare room in the back, and so me and my daughter stayed in there, and I was making videos at the time because I had a lot of like free time. It was mostly just me and my baby, and she wasn't in school yet. She hadn't even turned 3 when we first moved in with my grandmother. She was still like 2 years and some months, so she was going on 3. And I was going on, I want to say 30 because I'm 31 now. Yeah, I was going on 30. And when we moved in, it was pretty much just an arrangement. Like, my grandma didn't push me out of her house at all. She actually wanted me to stay as long as I needed to. But because my grandma also was getting ready to move out of her place, um, in I want to say in like April, so not too far. since then, my grandma had given us like a time limit as to either we're gonna find a place or she was gonna find a 2 bedroom, because at first she wanted a 1 bedroom because the place that she was living in, they started like trying to upcharge her for rent. They were just, being ornery and trying to really get her to move out because they wanted to move into the place, even though those people are in their 90s. I want to say the wife was like 97 and the husband was like 98 or something like that. I think the wife was like 95 and the husband was like 96. And mind you, my grandmother is 75, so she's about 20 years younger than them at this time. Um, so they're like pushing her out, and mind you, they didn't know that me and my daughter lived there. We just kept telling them that we were visiting, and so they would never really see us. Um, and yeah, so we pretty much lived with my grandmother from March until May 12th. And I'm not even gonna lie, this is where it gets kind of sad because in the 2 months I lived with my grandmother, um, I don't know, she started getting sicker, going to the bathroom a lot more, um, doing her insulin like really late. Like she would be up at 11:30 doing her insulin shots, which kind of concerned me because I always thought she did them like early in the morning. Because my grandmother had been diabetic since I was in high school. Like I want to say my not sophomore. It wasn't senior. I think it was like late junior to early senior year, or like mid senior year to late senior year. Either way, I was almost out of high school because I was working at the library at the time that I found out that she was diabetic. And yeah, I was like 18, 19. So at this point, she had been taking her insulin like super late at night, like 11:30, sometimes 12 o'clock in the morning, and I would hear her in the kitchen taking her insulin. Sometimes I would come out and check on her, like, hey, grandma, did you remember to take your insulin? And she'll be like, oh, I'm taking it right now, and I would watch her take it. And so we would have a lot of conversations. And she just honestly told me she worried a lot. She worried a lot about everybody, like her kids, her kids' kids, her grandkids' children, like her great grandkids, like my daughter and my niece. Um, and so yeah, she worried a lot. And within the 8 weeks that I had lived with my grandmother, she just kind of slowly started to deteriorate. Like she was still up and moving, but she slowly started to have more and more doctor's appointments, which I thought was kind of strange because, like, you never had this many doctor's appointments so close together. And one night, she, one, I'm gonna start at the daytime. So one morning, um, apparently she gets up, she leaves the house. She told me the day before that she had like a doctor's appointment. So when I woke up and she wasn't there, I just assumed she was at her doctor's appointment. So, and that she would be back like an hour or two later. I didn't really clock my grandma like that. So most of the time she would tell me like, hey, this is where I'm gonna go and then I'll be back and I'll bring you guys back something to eat. My grandma cooked, but she rarely ever cooked at her age. I don't know, just because like fast food was easier for her. Um, and she mostly had like stuff like fish, or like frozen meals. So I had assumed that she went to go get her hair done because this was the day before Mother's Day. Or not the day before, 2 days before Mother's Day. Like I said, she had doctor's appointments. So on that morning when I woke up, she wasn't home. So me and my baby just got up. We made breakfast and we just waited for her to come home. And throughout most of that day, we just sat in the house, we watched TV. Um, and me and my daughter ate breakfast, we had ate lunch. And by the time my grandma got home, it was probably like 6, 7 o'clock, which is around the time she would come home every day. And then she would give us dinner. So she gave us, I want to say it was like a Friday. Yeah, it was Friday because every Friday we had fish. So she gave us our food and then she went in her room. She went in her room, and by the time I had laid my baby down, I was on the couch. Like, I was on the couch, I was relaxing, I was watching TV, and I remember being on my phone. And I I'm laying on the couch, and she comes into the kitchen. Mind you, this is probably like 9:30, and my grandma at this time is usually in her PJs, getting ready to lay down for a little bit. And that was what she told me at like 7. She was like, I'm getting ready. She was like, I'm about to go lay down. So I was like, okay, like that's fine. She, I guess, went to lay down, but at around 9:30, she comes out her room, but she's fully dressed in the clothes that she had on when she came home. So I'm confused. Like, did you get dressed or did you just never take those clothes off? Because why are you fully dressed as if you never took anything off? And when she comes out the room, she's kind of like looking around. She's looking around. She's I don't know. It seemed like she was looking for something, but at the same time, she's kind of confused. So I'm like, hey, grandma, mind you, like I said, I'm sitting on the couch. I feel like it's kind of weird that you're up at this time because, like, you would usually be asleep. Um, so I'm like, hey, grandma, where are you going? And she doesn't really hear me the first time. So I wait a few minutes. And at this point, she's in the kitchen and she's like, I think she's getting a cup. Like, she's getting a cup of something to drink. So I'm thinking maybe she was just sitting there for a long time watching TV and didn't get undressed. And now she's going back in her room getting something to drink and she'll get undressed and go to bed. But I'm like, okay. So while she's at the kitchen and she's fixing herself a cup of something to drink, it's like one of those tall cups. I'm like, I say it again. I'm like, where are you going? She's like, oh, just out. My grandma doesn't drive at night. Ma'am, where are you going? By the way, she did not drive at night, not by herself. She would always have my cousin drive her somewhere if she went anywhere. So I'm like, okay. I don't really clock my grandma, so I'm just like, okay, I guess in my head, that's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, I guess. But then I'm really trying to like press her at the same time, like, but where are you going? And she just don't say nothing. So that third time she just didn't say anything. And she went outside. So I'm thinking that my cousin was outside and he just didn't come in the house. Cause like I said, it's late. He probably just wanted to go home after he dropped her off. So I'm thinking she's going to the casino. Let's say Saturday morning, I wake up and I'm waking up to a phone call from my younger brother. My younger brother tells me he wants to know where our grandma's at. I'm like, isn't she in her room? He's like, why wouldn't you know where she is? Don't you live there? And I'm like, yeah, but I just woke up and I don't know. I'm like, I don't know, I can go see. So he gets upset. He hangs up in my face. I'm now mad because I'm like, why would you hang up in my face? Why are you being so rude? And I knock on my grandma's door. Her door is not open. It's closed and it's locked. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. I'm thinking maybe she spent the night at the casino and she's just not home yet. So now people are looking for her because she probably doesn't have her phone charged. Um, no, that's not the case. My grandmother, I later find out that my grandmother is in the hospital from my mom. Like, at this point, my brother has called me. He's still frustrated with me because he's like, how you didn't know, how you don't know where your grandma is at? Don't you live with her? Like, you should know where she's at. You're basically her roommate. And I'm like, grandma's a grown woman. Like, I don't clock her. I said, I knew that she left last night, but I thought that at some point she had came back, or maybe she stayed at the casino overnight. He's like, no, she's in the hospital. So then my mom calls later that day and confirms it. So I end up having to go to the hospital with my daughter. And I had called one of my friends. My friend ends up not answering, but luckily, one of my other friends just so happened to be coming out there, to be coming out here from Atlanta to spend Mother's Day with her people. So she had just so happened to be getting off the plane. I didn't even know that she was like out here on that same day. So when I call her, I'm just calling her to tell her what's going on with me. And she's like, sis, don't worry. I'm getting off the plane right now and I will come and get you. Um, so she comes to me, like, me and my daughter hurry up and get dressed. She comes to me, and mind you, at this point, I know that my grandma is on a ventilator because apparently she had passed out she had passed out at the casino, and we kind of just thought she would be fine. But when I got to the hospital with my play sister, turns out things were a lot worse. Apparently, my grandmother had fluids in her stomach, like lots of blood just roaming around, and she was unresponsive. And unfortunately, she passed away the next day, that Sunday, on Mother's Day. So from there, my mom, and this was a year ago. So from there, my mom ends up moving in, and we're slowly trying to um organize my grandma's things. We're, you know, going basically through everything. My mom's moving her stuff in, trying to organize my grandma's boyfriend's things because he had previously passed away just a few months prior. Um, and then now we're trying to organize my grandmother's things because she's passed away. And of course, me and my daughter are still living there. And so, like, me and my mom are trying to hide the fact that any of us live there and that my grandma is no longer alive from her landlord. Eventually, and in all that space and time, I am looking for a place. I signed up for all these public housing waiting lists and Section 8. I finally get chosen for a place, and then I unfortunately got denied the first time. The place that I rented, the place that I wanted to move into, which is where I currently live right now. And I know you guys are like, but didn't you just say you got denied? Yeah, I did originally. So when I first applied for this place, it had been over 6 months prior, and they didn't have anything when I first applied for this place. And so when my name finally came up, I did everything I was supposed to do in a timely manner, gave them everything that they were looking for. And unfortunately, my credit was so horrible. Um, I also had let them know, like, I was in an abusive relationship with my daughter's dad. I'm technically considered homeless because if I don't find a place, I will be on the streets with my daughter. And because of my credit score and how much money I had in the bank at the time, I was then initially denied. Mind you, I tried to appeal my case, and the property manager for the place that I live in now, um, he was uh, a, a, a penis. I'm gonna say it. He was a penis, pretty much. Because he denied me, and when I tried to explain to him like my situation and the things that had happened to me, he was just like, well, I don't know what to tell you, your credit's not that good. Mind you, I'm also disabled, so I know I'm supposed to be in this place, and I don't give up. At this point, I'm pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and the guy basically just tells me to reapply. Um, I reapply. Luckily, the second time that I don't know, I got this weird message just now. Luckily, the second time I applied, it was with a woman property manager. Like, it was with a female property manager. And both of the women on this team were so very understanding that when I did my interviews, I told them everything. I was just like, listen, I was in an abusive relationship. My grandmother just passed away. I was like, I was like, her landlords don't even know that I live there, but we have to find a place. We have to find a place, because if we don't, I will be on the streets. I said I applied for here before, but I got denied. I said the biggest thing for me was that my credit was bad. And they were like, that's fine. If you can prove that you were like in an abusive relationship and all these other things, we will reconsider you. And when I tell you, in the very beginning of that second process, of that second application process, they waited for me for as long as it took. And I was living with still in my grandmother's house from that March up until September, when my daughter started preschool. She started Head Start at 3. So for all those months, I had just been like really fine tuning my application. After being denied in May, I had been fine tuning my application. Not even in May, I want to say it was probably like closer to when my daughter started school. It was probably like June or July when I applied the first time. And so when I say these ladies were so patient with me, they were so understanding, and these women were angels, because originally, the apartment that I live in right now was rented to a woman that was also in a wheelchair, and she was getting ready to move out of this place. These people specifically saved this apartment for me. And they told me this. They would hold off on letting other people see this apartment. They held off on even letting other people apply. Like, they were accepting applications for this place, but they were really trying to hold it for me until I got everything together. And lo and behold, September 13th, I got everything in, everything looked good. I had gotten all of my money together, and at that point, I want to say I was like 150 short. I was like 150 short on the money that I had to give them to move in, but I had everything. Everything was squared away. My daughter was starting school right before, and I want to say 3 days afterward, I gave them their cashier's check. When I say I did everything I had to do, I did everything I had to do. My brother and his girlfriend are also a godsend, because one day they came over and I'm just explaining to them, like, I'm just waiting on my last little bit of money to come. Like, I just need $150. And it still nearly brings me to tears every time I think about it, because I'm also on my cycle, so don't mind me. But like, this is my little brother at that. I'm supposed to be taking care of him. I'm supposed to be giving him money to move into his place. But everybody saw how hard I was working. Also, I kind of have a sty coming, so my eye watering is horrible right